Hi, this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the cymbals bead endings in your bead weaving. So what are cymbals? Cymbals are these little guys right here, and we call them bead endings. Now you can see that there's some little holes here, and what is really nice about this particular style is it fits right on the end of the bead weaving. So it's going to fit right in there as though it sort of works right into your beads. So the cymbals have different size beads and different styles of beads that fit with them. So let's go over that first, and then I'm going to show you how to actually attach it here. So let me draw your eye up here. Now these are the 2-hole silky beads, the black beads here that you're seeing, and I've sort of fit them into some of these little endings so you can see that they have some really unique little styles, and what I love about them is they have these little loops at the top. And it's different little styles that you can implement into your designs however you want to. So let's say you want something a little flatter, you can go for this half drilled sort of one here. And then we have the full silky. And then we also have these guys here, which are going to be that nice bridge. And this is actually wonderful because it's going to provide some structure for your bead weaving so that you don't have to create crazy thread bridges or add in seed beads where you weren't already using seed beads. So these are going to be really great. So these are the ones that we have for the silky beads. And then over here, I have a couple of different designs for the 2-hole honeycomb beads. So we have this one here, which really just looks like a honeycomb bead with that loop on it, which is really, really cool. I love using that one. And then this guy here is a little bit more of a slim one. So in case you didn't really want a lot of metal on your bead weaving, you can just add that little touch there, and it has that nice little loop to attach a clasp. Now over here, we have the GemDuos. Now this one has some really unique little styles here. Let's start up here at the top. So this one obviously is a much more stylized version, and I love this antiqued silver, and you can see it down here in a sort of gold version. So very, very cool, very different look. And again, we have some more that have a little bit more of that structure, a little bit more of that metal. And even down here, same little style, and you can do 4 or 3, and it goes with the holes on the outside there. So you can actually add beads on the outside as well. So let's say you wanted to do something, and you can actually see that I've done it up here where you've added a bead to the outside. So you could do 2 in the center or add 1 to the outside to continue that taper. So it's entirely up to whatever your design requires. Now again, we see those little slim ones like we saw with the honeycomb beads. And we also have these little tiny toppers here. So they have little holes on the sides and then that loop at the top. Now this guy is kind of interesting here. This is actually sort of a little bit more of a side bead, as they like to call it. But with it having that loop, you can also use this to attach something, and you can just see how nice and slim it nestles into a design and just sort of finishes that off for you. But let's say you wanted to have this at the bottom of your design, maybe you were making an earring, you could turn it on its side there, and you could hang something from it, maybe a tassel or a gemstone or a Swarovski crystal, so you can utilize this as well, so it doesn't actually have to be used for a clasp. So then we go up back here, and you can see that we have that other loop, and that can be used in the same manner as well. So it can either be to attach a clasp or to attach an earring hook or a dangle of any choosing. All right, so over here we have the ones that fit the Tilas and the half Tilas. So here's kind of how it works. In this one over here, you can see that this has that full Tila size, that nice square size. So I fit 2 in there just so you can kind of see that. And if you look at the side version, you'll see that there's 2 holes there. So you can drill right through with both holes of the 2-hole Tilas. And in contrast, we have this one here that only has a single hole. Now you can see that it would still fit a Tila, and I have that example down here. So you have that second hole ready for you to maybe add on some more Tilas here. So if you're creating like a little bit of a brick design, you can utilize that there as well. So you can just sort of see how that starts to fit together there. But you can also do the half Tilas because, of course, a half Tila, 2 half Tilas make 1 Tila. So you can actually do something that has multiple design elements in there as well. And then we also have some nice little slim, tiny ones here that are just going to help create that extra little loop. You can put 2 next to it. And then we also have that sort of bead replacement style there that has that, it looks like a little Tila bead with that little loop. Now these ones are kind of fun. This is something that you could put in the center of your design just to add a little metal element to it. So each one has that single hole going up the side. So you can add in, maybe a couple little structural pieces to your bracelet in case you're worried that it might be flopping around. I don't know what design you're working with, but it gives you that opportunity to do so. All right. Finally, we have over here, we have the Superduos, and this is the last of our 2-hole beads. Now these, we have the little tiny loops, and we have that little, again, that we were looking at that kind of bead replacement one. It looks like a little Superduo. And then we have these little itty bitty guys here. Now these are super tiny, and it'll take the place of sort of half of that Superduo there, and it has that nice little loop. Now you could, of course, stack a couple of these on in case you're creating let's say a tube clasp, you have something like that and you want to connect it with little jump rings, you can absolutely do that. And then we also have that nice little structure one here where I've put 2 of those little Superduos in there so you can see how nicely they nestled together. Now, if you're working with seed beads, we have a couple of options there. We have this guy here, and this is actually really cool. So all I did is I just strung some beads there just because I wanted to show you that 8 11-0 beads fit inside there. So this is really a cool kind of thing if you're doing any type of bead weaving where this might sort of fit with some 11-0 seed beads, or if you're trying to do a loom piece, you can actually utilize this at the very end of the loom, and you can also extend it if you needed to. So that will just fit right outside there. So that's a nice little tapered look. It's all about the finishing technique with these. All right, so finally, let's get back to our 8-0s here. So I have a couple of little extra pieces here. There's a little tiny one there, and I also have this big, beautiful fan piece, which you can do, again, if you're finishing off maybe a loom piece with some of those 8-0 seed beads. All right, so I have an odd count peyote here that I'm going to attach this little symbol here. Okay, so how does this work? I have my thread coming out of my bead right here. So if I was going to add another row or finish off a clasp per se, I'm going to just sort of look at it on my table, and you can see that that little portion right there where my needle is, that's going to act as a second bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up and I'm going to go through that one side there. And just as though it were a bead, I'm going to go through the next bead that's right next to it and just kind of pull that through. And you can see that it starts to nestle. And then I'm just going to continue my pattern. So I am going to add a bead, and I'm going to go into that next bead there. And this is just sort of finishing off that peyote. All right, so now I'm at the second one. So again, I'm just going to treat it like a bead. And that's sort of, you know, the little motto with these is you just treat them as though they're the next bead in your row. And you're going to be just fine. So you can see that I'm going down through that next one, just as though I just added on another bead. And then I'm going to pick up another bead and go through. And then treating it like the other bead, I'm going to pick that up and go through that next bead. And then I'm adding on another bead in my row, which is that blue bead. And now I'm coming to the end, and I'm just going to go straight out. There we go. And I want to make sure to create a little thread bridge on this side. So I'm going to go down through and kind of come up there. And now you're actually all set to, once you've kind of done that little turnaround, to go all the way back through and secure it. But that's actually pretty secure, and that's one of the things that I really like about this is you're adding in that metal element. But that's how, you know, nice and easy it finishes off. And you could just sort of continue that pattern up there, you know. You can go down through the beads. It's a design choice. It's entirely up to you. But I like the way that it looks, just where it sort of tapers off and just kind of continues like that. So that is how you use the Cymbal's bead endings in bead weaving. It's very simple. If you just sort of treat them like they're new beads, you'll be absolutely fine. And then you just tie off your thread as you normally would. So these are actually really wonderful pieces. You can shop all of these and get even more specific details about them by heading over to Beadaholique.com.